tea time as well. So it's a little bit tricky for me to do office hours at the moment. But by all means, please do send me an email to ben@pitchwork.com. We do these very nice, specific, annotated reviews of pitch decks for early stage founders. So do try and leverage that as much as you can. But as I mentioned kind of very quickly in the intro, I started out in advertising, doing stuff for Nike, Coca-Cola, Xbox, Samsung, stuff like that, and also working with accelerators in Toronto. Then went to work at FI-HQ in 2020 after having led the Toronto cohort for about 8 years and was helping run programs kind of all across the world. But my main kind of business in the background of all of this has been Pitchwork. And so what we're going to be covering today is kind of a quick run through of these three core pillars of your presentation, right? Content, design, and delivery. Let's start with content. One of the first things that you want to really take into account when putting together a presentation isn't just, how do I wow investors? How do I get everybody to kind of, start throwing checks at me? It's who is actually in the audience. Because yes, investors are kind of your core, the kind of core of the target audience for your presentations. But as you progress through the ecosystem, you'll have to engage with advisors, mentors, accelerator admins, friends and family, strategic partners, clients, all kinds of other types of people. And so there are two ways you can talk about your business at the kind of very first steps. There is the kind of utilitarian approach, like what does it do? Who is it for? What kind of an outcome does it provide the end user? These are kind of universal concepts that anybody can understand without any technical basis. The inclination, especially among technical founders, is to go for the mechanic or the insider knowledge is. How does it work? How is it built? What is the underlying technology? This is where you tend to see the buzzwords and the heavy technical deep dives and the brute forcing technical detail to try and impress people on how incredible the platform is. That's where you tend to kind of exhaust the audience, and they don't necessarily have the time for an education. All they really have time for is a quick kind of as a quick overview of the core topics, right? Generally speaking, it is your problem, solution, traction, market, competition, advantage, roadmap, team, ask, thank you. It's here's who we are. Here's a problem out in the world. We've come up with a way to solve that problem. So far, we have X number of people that have jumped on and paid us to solve that problem. There are more of those people out in the market. There are other competitors going after that same group of people. We have advantages over those competitors. We have a plan to continue to exploit our advantages over those competitors. We have a team that can carry out the plan. We need to ask you for a resource. Thank you, appendix. Right now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be 10 or 12 or 14 or 15 slides. I personally actually don't think slide count really matters at all. I think what matters is how much content are you trying to get across in the time that you're allotted. So as long as you can give me a teeny tiny breadcrumb on each of these topics, that gives me kind of a somewhat comprehensive, albeit not particularly deep, overview of what the company is doing. If I'm trying to find an exponential organization or a company that can grow exponentially, I need a tiny, teeny bit of information on all of these things. And so when shortening your pitch, it's not necessarily a matter of dropping these sections completely. It's a matter of figuring out how can you lower the level of detail so that you can get through these a little bit quicker. When it gets down to that 1 minute, you cover basically 4 topics in a 1 minute conversation or 1 minute pitch. It is, what is the problem you're tackling to kind of define the area that you're operating in? What have you done about it so far to talk about what is it that you're building and what kind of action and what kind of momentum is in play? Who's the team behind it so that we have an idea of what your credentials and capabilities are? And what is the plan for the next 6 to 12 months? If I'm going to support the company immediately, that 6 to 12 month window is the most important period because it signals how aggressive you are about sales, how aggressive you are about growth, right? Now, good and bad things about scripts. It's one of the most frequent crutches that founders will kind of gravitate towards. The good thing is that it's great for reviewing the level of detail you're trying to get through. Remember, you speak at about roughly 150, 170 words a minute at high speed. Anything over and above that becomes difficult to follow. So it allows you to kind of get an idea of how much detail you're trying to get in. It's a basis for bullet points rather than kind of a word-for-word script, because we need to remember that there are bad things about creating scripts as well. They're very difficult to present live. Everybody can tell because you sound robotic and monotone and kind of disconnected from the content, what it is that you're saying. And the audience also quickly loses pace with the amount of detail that you're trying to get across. And I'm very sorry to say, but AI is not going to save you, not yet at least, for a couple of reasons. One of the things that I'm seeing a lot in our kind of client base, especially amongst early stage founders, is that competency rot is setting in very, very quickly. Founders very quickly lose connection with what it is that they're actually creating. There are good ways to use AI, and I'll cover that in a second. I'm not all doom on AI. The delivery becomes fragile because you need to change your delivery for all kinds of different audience groups. And if you don't intuitively know that message, you can't always keep running back to an LLM. And the phrasing and the structure of the pitch that you put out there starts to become very generic. And for people that review decks all day, every day, like myself and investors, will be able to spot it. Like contrast flipping. So it's not a this, it's a that. Triad, then followed by a triad. So try like we do A, we do B, we do C, and then like it has a very recognizable structure now. It's kind of like if only one author wrote everything that you read. I can see it in YouTube videos, I can see it in LinkedIn posts, I can see it in pitch decks, I can see it on websites. Like it's just the same tone everywhere, and it's becoming very easy to spot. One of the reasons that we keep gravitating to AI though is because it kind of feels like computer magic, right? Is that it can kind of solve all of these different things. It is a valuable tool, but it is not going to solve all of your problems. So by all means, use AI, but be smart about it. If you're lazy about using AI, people that review decks all day, every day will be able to see. There's two ways you can do it. You can use AI as a data source, or you can use it as a conversational tool. Using it as a brainstorming and a conversational tool and a little bit of a writing assistant is perfectly fine, but using it as a data source means that you're just pulling from the same generic data that everybody else is doing. So the antidote to that is creating what we've started to call a venture reference doc of about 10 to 20,000 words max. Anything over and above that, you start to get outside of the useful window of context, the useful context window. Context windows are about 200,000 tokens at the moment, but the way that LLMs pull information out of it is that it samples throughout there, somewhat at random. So you really only get about 50,000 words of 50,000 tokens of usable context before it starts hallucinating severely. I could rant all day about the good and the bad of AI tools, but where I get a lot of my learning around writing is from Tiago Forte. He has a phenomenal YouTube channel, so I encourage you to go check that out. Now, design. In design terms, you basically go through 4 steps of a pitch production process. You start with a script, you turn that into a wireframe that you can start practicing and getting some feedback from your mentors. You turn that wireframe into what I call a tidy deck. One color, one extra kind of typeface, and a little bit of bold, a little bit of regular, a little bit of bullet points, nothing particularly over the top aesthetically. And most of our clients actually stop at a tidy deck rather than going down this kind of aesthetic rabbit hole with videos and audio and animations. Primarily because, not because it doesn't look good. Going down that production rabbit hole does look good, but it's expensive and it's time consuming. And when you need to edit or change that, it becomes very, very difficult to keep up with the pace of to iterate it quickly over time, especially because your company this early on is going to change rapidly. This is kind of the level of polish that we do for most of our decks, and our average client is raising kind of between 5 and 20 million. If you are going to put some effort into production, put it into showing off the product. You want to show off the interface, you want to show off the actual product itself, if it's on a store shelf, if it's a prototype, if it's a rendering, anything helps, right? I won't spend a whole lot of time on this case study, kind of running through a client of ours who had a mesh network. All I'll say is that this is what we tend to see a lot coming in. This is what we tend to put out in terms of production quality. Showing a little bit of atmosphere, showing a little bit of the product, showing who it is that's using it helps a lot, because you need to be aware of the design trap. No amount of design is going to fix bad content. If you don't have anything particularly compelling to talk about, no amount of templates or production tricks is going to help you. And keeping the design and the aesthetics relatively simple maintains ease of editability. That means that you can quickly make a new version, you can quickly update a slide, you can quickly implement feedback. Last section, I'll get through this in about 2 minutes, I promise. So first thing to remember about delivery or actually presenting is that things will go wrong. There's lots and lots of rhetoric that goes around about having to practice, and this is generally kind of the way that most people will practice their presentations. They will start from the very beginning. Let's see, can I get my pen up here? Yeah. They'll start from the beginning, they'll try and go through, and they will stop. This is just the structure from before, right? But they'll start presenting, they'll try and go through, and they'll stop. Said something wrong, made a little mistake, want to kind of rewind and start again. They'll do that. They'll get a little bit further, make another mistake or interrupted, forget something, go off script, go back to the beginning. They'll go maybe once through and they'll make that one perfect run. And now this one perfect run is the kind of new unattainable benchmark. And the reason you made that perfect run is probably luck. You're probably just lucky to make it through the whole thing perfectly, word for word every time. Then they'll try again. Now the vocal cords are starting to get tired. The brain is getting tired. It'll start making mistakes. Now you start to really freak out. It's like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this properly. What am I doing? Shouldn't I quit my day job? And this kind of just builds this like mountain of anxiety and stress and fear around the actual day that you're going to go and present, right? Now, how do we short circuit this? So instead of when we're practicing trying to hit this pristine, exact, razor sharp scripted language, instead what we do is we start from the beginning, we practice all the way through, and we push through right through to the end, and then go back to the beginning and repeat that process all the way to the very end, repeat that process all the way through to the very end. The thing is, these fatal moments are still going to happen. You're still going to forget things. You're still going to get interrupted. You're still going to have kind of brain fog, and things are going to mess up. The trick is not to allow them to stop you, but if you hit a mistake, quote unquote, like this, you push through and you push through and you push through and you push through. You take a breath, you take a second, you allow yourself to get through it, because you won't be able to reset out in the real world. And if you do this, if you say things slightly differently every time, it will always it will start to build up this kind of resilience to mistakes, so to speak, rather than being super fragile and just being knocked off course by the slightest little mistake, as well as it will help you practice your improvisational muscle so that you can just talk to anybody in any situation. This method doesn't just help you in pitches in investor scenarios, it makes you better at actually just chatting about the company. And so when you are practicing, when you're pitching, don't try and get perfect runs, just get the reps in so that you can intuitively get through the process. Now, when you do actually do those pitch sessions, when you sit down and take some time to pitch, your first run through is going to suck. It's going to be cold, your vocal cords are going to be cold, your brain's going to be cold. Second one, it's going to be a little bit more warmed up, you're starting to get a little bit into the groove. Third is going to be smooth, but probably slow. The fourth run through, you're going to be increasing your pace. Fifth run through, you're probably hitting peak performance for that practice session. The issue is that if you continue to go over and over and over and over and over again, your brain gets tired, you get more anxious, your vocal cords get tired, you've got other shit to do, so you want to go and do other things. If you go into a sixth and a seventh and an eighth and a ninth repetition, your performance will start to diminish, and you create this a negative association with practicing, which you don't want, because you need this as a core skill set for pitching, for leadership, for sales, everything. Last point, responding to questions and challenges. It's easy to just remember this quick 1, 2, 3. Buy yourself 1 second to just pause, formulate a response, and wrap up. So pause, respond to the question, even if you don't have the answer. Being able to show that you're coachable and open to solving problems rather than like, oh, well, trying to come across as if you know everything. It's much better to come across coachable and curious about problems and wanting to solve them. Like, thank you very much for that. Thanks a lot for the comment. We weren't aware of that competitor, but it seems like somebody we should definitely look into. Thanks a lot. Is a lot more of a positive signal than trying to look like you know everything. Your early stage founders, you by definition will not know a whole bunch of things. We're looking for navigators and people that can run organizations and build them, not people that have all the answers by default. It's very easy to go into a detail spiral when you get challenged with a question. So make sure that you wrap up the response to your question as soon as you can. If you need to go into a more detailed answer, ask them. Like, does that answer your question? 1 or 2 things will happen. They'll say, yes, thank you very much. Or 2, they'll say, I'm kind of more curious about this. Now you've got a dialogue going. Now you get them a better answer. You get to dive into the specifics of what they actually want, and you have a more positive interaction. because the end goal of all this is that you want the next interaction. The ultimate goal of any pitch is to secure the next interaction. Nobody's going to start throwing checks at you on one pitch. And if you ever see that happening out in the wild, there's almost guaranteed something happening behind the scenes that you're unaware of. The investors were involved in the previous company. The deal is basically already done before the pitch happens. And so with that, thank you very much, everyone, for my little sprint. I would love to provide you with some detailed feedback on your pitches and on your decks at any point throughout the program. I'm around in the ecosystem, so find me on LinkedIn, find me on email. As I said, me and my wife live in Iceland at the moment, and so I am on GMT time. So office hours are going to be challenging, but I'm very easy to get a hold of over email and over LinkedIn. So please do reach out. If you don't reach out, I can't help you. If you do reach out, we'll figure out how to help you in wherever you're at in your journey. So with that, thank you very much everyone for your time. And yeah, looking forward to the other draws today.
Thank you so much, Ben. You're always, your pitch is so good. There's so much these founders.
It's my job.
I mean, you're literally. I've seen you through the years, and I think it's brilliant. And I'm telling all the founders, this is absolute golden nugget. You can't beat that. So with that, can we have Vishal, who's going to be presenting next? But before that, can I request all the mentors to put mentor after their name so we know that you're the mentor? And also to all the founders, if you could just put your full name so we will know exactly who you are. And with that, I'll give it to Vishal, and please introduce yourself and then present. And it's a 10 to 12-minute presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Thanks for the warm welcome into this space. And Ben, it was wonderful watching you. But what caught my attention was that you live in Iceland. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Looks like you moved there, of course. I'd like to know more.
I grew up here, actually, funnily enough. So it's not that exotic to me. But anyway, we'll catch up after, Michelle, for sure. I'm happy to chat.
Nice meeting you. Thanks for acknowledging me. The best way to know about me is to ask your search engine, prompt your search engine with the term entrepreneurology, the scientific study of entrepreneurship. I am the founder of Entrepreneurology, and today I will show you a view of pitching from the lens of Entrepreneurology. It's basically an objective language about entrepreneurship that has been developed by applying the scientific method to entrepreneurship. I'm going to draw your attention to this piece of canvas. Can you see this? When we see anything from the perspective of science, it is to understand the philosophy behind why something exists, how we approach it, how we think about it, how we challenge it, and the practice of doing it. When we say practice, it is the knowledge about a certain way of doing things that just works. And that is the advantage of applying the scientific method to something. Let's view startups in general and your entrepreneurial journey and describe pitching as an outcome of this journey. Just work with me and observe this view. Essentially, your journey as entrepreneurs, your startup journey is discovery of what you want to build and who to build for in a way that works with them, in a way that they find it undeniably valuable. And to do this, you're juggling between research. Let's give this a circular. Validation. Just keep your attention on the words for now. Testing. And launch. They're not necessarily linear or cyclic or any particular form, because you're dabbling between these various milestones to eventually discover what to launch. Like the outcome is your GTM plan, but when you arrive at your GTM plan, you know for sure this plan's going to work. As an entrepreneurologist, you view all of this by giving this first a container. This container is your vision. One of the core variables of entrepreneurship is how you define your vision. And then you navigate between researching through surveys, validating through experimentation, because when you do research, the outcome of research is ideas. Ideas become experiments. You run experiments to validate them. As you keep validating various assumptions, you come up with specifications of what you build that becomes your first prototype. After running several experiments, you come up with what to build, your first MVP or prototype. Then you do testing. And once you do rigorous testing, you're ready with a GTM plan that is ready for launch. Now, while you navigate between all these things, you are essentially working like a circle within the outer circle with a bunch of, let's say, just elements inside, with a bunch of experiments. Now, these experiments are about who your customer is. All this is discovery, right? So who your customer is going to be, what the offering is, what the needs are, what the needs that you're serving, which is part of the idea framework, how it helps people solve their problems, what the benefits are, features, unlike the competitions, all these variables that you're trying to discover, not know, because entrepreneurial journey is about discovering. If you know something, then you can run a business. You can hire a bunch of MBAs and say, hey, here's a model, here's a manual, let's go run it. This area where you're discovering something, all your assumptions lie, that is the journey through which you will navigate through your launch. Now, if this is your universe, within the vision, you're running all these things and assumptions are flying around, then pitching essentially is smaller. Pitching essentially would be a view of this for an investor. Just think about this. Now, you're also developing views of your universe for, say, customers, employees, any type of stakeholders. At any point of time, you're also discovering what kind of investors will be ideal, will be in sync to join your journey, what kind of customers, what kind of employees. Essentially, these views that you're projecting for various audiences will help you discover what form of your startup pitch will be accepted. Find an IF review. There you go. These are views. These are various views of your startup or of your vision. And the vision holds everything else, what the product is, what the needs and benefits that it serves, etc. So let's focus on this view for an investor. This is your pitch. What is the purpose of a pitch? Essentially, and Ben touched upon this a little bit as well. This pitch is your gateway into the startup. Investors are outside. Yeah, there'll be several eyes here out in the universe, but you're trying to discover what kind of a person would accept your proposition. You're not trying to win everyone out there and meet everybody's expectations and enroll them. You're trying to discover what words, what kind of language will align with what kind of a person. It's almost like you are discovering with curiosity and you're seeing who fits into your universe rather than you trying to fit into everyone else's. So this is the discovery process. You discover your investor. And the way the investor enters this universe, the way they enter this universe into here, would be only if they feel safe, if they have no objections. Which means your entire pitch should invite a person with just the amount of necessary information and evidence required so that they feel safe to enter into universe. Once they're okay entering into universe, then all the other conversations start. They do the due diligence, they present you an offer, and you counter offer or due diligence, etc., etc. That's the process, but and it may take its own time based on other discoveries or other findings or the details that you go through. But essentially, the way they enter your gateway, the rules of entering the universe is that they will enter when they feel safe. Let's say there's kind of a gateway here in the space. You're projecting a view of this activity. You're researching, testing, validating, launch, but whenever you're pitching, your goal is to present among all these assumptions, yeah? Let's say the bunch of assumptions, product, market, etc., etc. You are drawing a view through all these assumptions in a way that presents your current best guess of all these variables to your possible investor. This pink line is drawn from all the assumptions, like that is your current best guess. While you're constantly evaluating all your guesses and what's going to work, and that's the startup journey until you know your GTM and your first pivot, etc. But anytime you're pitching, no matter where you are, you're projecting your first best guess. So all your employees and stakeholders need to understand and have the same view. What I'm presenting today is my best guess based on the evidence and the intuition that I have about what's going to work. And yeah, based on which day you're pitching and which audience you're pitching to, that will change. And if you can develop this approach, you can flow and enjoy this lightness and playfulness with discovery only if you develop this view, this objective scientific view about your journey. Having said that, as entrepreneurists, we use a broad framework for the pitch deck. Now, all these assumptions will help you project your pivot. Obviously, everything starts from the vision, essentially playing in the language of I'm in the business of vision. Then the pivot, who the customer is, and what the offering could be. The idea. This is where your value proposition comes in, the need, the benefits, how it helps them, competition, etc., etc. So essentially presenting my best guess is my customer group is going to be this, my offering is going to be this, the need, features, benefits. So that's your core best guess, depending on where you are in your journey. Then you declare your product status authentically, whether you're doing research, validation, testing, or ready with a GTM plan for launch. And provide just enough evidence to qualify your product status. Traction, essentially, again, not in the traditional sense about always how many users, unless you have a launch plan already, but provide evidence on the validation that you're doing. If you have an MVP that you're testing, or you're just researching, you're running surveys, you have a vision, you have your best guess, but you're still running surveys. And ultimately, you're asked. So pivot, product status, evidence, and ask. Vision, of course, to start with, along with an intro. If you try and remember from this perspective, this framework, then all the other details that other mentors are mentioning as well will fall into this flow, will fall into this structure. And essentially, remember, this is your universe. You contain your universe. You give it an energetic flow. You create the geometry in your universe, and you're discovering. Pitching is a process of discovering what kind of investor will be your ideal long-term partner. It's not about trying to prove yourself or justify what you're doing to everyone else out there. To know more about the science of pitching through like a text interface that might be more helpful for some of you, I suggest this QR code. I'll leave it in the chat as well. It will open a WhatsApp chat. It'll open a WhatsApp chat interface with our Entrepreneurology GPT, and it will You ask the question, what is starter pitching? It will explain you in text, and you can continue the conversation and go deeper into the science of pitching and how to navigate through it. You can also present your pitch and ask for feedback or rewriting or make it or present in a simple language for a certain audience. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Vishal. That was surely very, I would say, very scientific bent of pitching, and really appreciate that. And with that, can we go with Dr. Warren Linger? And if you could introduce yourself, Dr. Linger, and then maybe present.
I would be honored. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity. A little bit about me. I'm from Colorado. Learned how to speak in public with Dale Carnegie there in Silicon Valley, San Mateo, Santa Clara. But I moved here to Hong Kong about 20 years ago, fell in love, and so I'm staying here. But I'm a local leader here in Hong Kong, and I've met several of you, Matt, Matthew, Moreno, Lays. Anyway, I would like to do a demonstration, if that's okay. Many have seen, I can do a whole screen? Yay, you guys have more power here. Often, as Ben and Vishal mentioned, preparing is huge, but the vast majority of the pitches I've ever done are no preparation. So I'm going to demonstrate something that I've shown most of you, or I should say not most, just a few of you. Right, this morning, right as we got started, they asked me if I wanted to prepare or pitch, and I said sure, or I can talk about pitching. So I went to the rundown. If you guys don't subscribe to the rundown, you should. Okay, and I just got this content about Cursor, and they have this new composer, and so I put it into Gemini, and I've asked it to, as a master pitch deck. I'm the CEO, Ivan Germanov. He, by the way, he's on RSM from Bulgaria. So I'm now going to ask it to create me a deck with 3 points per slide. No problem. Okay. Why am I doing this? The vast majority of the time that I've pitched, it's been no warning. It's been at seriously, in an elevator. It's been at Starbucks. It's been at a conference where I don't have the deck with me, or they say, can you get your deck? And of course, I don't have my computer. What do I do? So now I'm going to Gamma. So I'm just going to paste in those slides, and I put my name on there, Ivan. I said I want $2 million. Preserve text. Okay. Now, and are you guys timing me? Because usually I like to be timed, but
Yes, we are keeping track. Yes.
yeah, okay, good. So now we're in Gamma, which I had loaded up, but it's going slow. I'm going to let's see, create this deck here in a minute. Oh, yay, there we go. Okay, more nebulas. I used that one with Matthew yesterday. Okay, so we've got our theme. So I have my own themes in there for my own deck, and so you guys don't need my my logo on all of them. But often when I talk to founders, you know, Ben and Vishal have excellent points with all they're doing, but it's still about that relationship. Nothing gets past. I mean, like, you know, Ben made such a good point about you're pitching for the next interaction. You know, when here in Hong Kong we call it, you're pitching for a cup of coffee, plain and simple. And so that's what we do, is we are looking for that relationship, and that's what I'm going to pitch right now. I don't know this company, right? I just got the info, okay, from the rundown, and now I'm going to present it, hopefully. Yeah, okay. I'll get myself a timer. And if you guys don't use the timer in Zoom, you should. But anyway, in Vietnam, gang, the leader of the Vietnam, he always puts a timer on me when I'm presenting. So, okay, here goes. I just found this information when we started this lesson or this meeting, and I put it in there, and now I'm going to pitch it. Okay. Thanks for making the time. I'm glad we could find some time to see if this relationship could work. Because remember, we're building a relationship. And so as an investor, you know that relationship with your founders is key. And life is too short to have a bad relationship. And so let's jump on in. Okay. I can't wait to introduce you to my team. Ivan is my CTO, and he and I have been looking at 3 market forces that are driving this business idea. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to go backwards. They're not going to end, right? And those 3 market forces are, first, socially. There is a ton of LLM-driven coding and development, and basically it's creating a nuclear winter. Too many people are competing. The second market force is economic, and this is what we have at Cursor have developed to cut the coding time in half, right? And the third market force is technology, and we have the key. And I can't wait to introduce you to Ivan, my CTO, because this has created this market window. It's just opening and won't be open for long. And so we want to see if you, as an investor, are the right one for us, because it is all about a fit, values. Okay. And so let's jump on in. And our solution: multi-agent orchestration, proprietary speed, and integrated development. And when we meet and you want to know more, ask me about this, because I don't want to take too much time here because I've only got 3 more minutes left. But the major product core technology is we have these 3 steps: first in-house, frontier speed, and multi-agent architecture that has been mentioned before. You got to hit those 3s, right? So the market opportunity is incredible. And so we're looking at 50 million easy for our mid-sized technology firms. And again, when we get to Q&A or when we meet for that cup of coffee, this is where, you definitely please talk to me about this. A business model is 3-tiered, tiered subscriptions, value-based, and enterprise contracts. And again, I haven't added a lot of information here because I don't want to get stuck in these, because this might not be a good fit for you as an investor. But then again, it might be. And think of all that we could do together, because throughout this, my CTO, Ivan, he has spent the last 4 years working on this technology. And look at how far he's gone without you. Imagine how far we could go together with you. Okay, because as I mentioned before, the company, every LLM is creating coding now, but they don't have the speed, they don't have the accuracy, and that is money lost to customers. So our founders, does that look like me? Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, this is me. And then the other one is Ivan. And so Ivan is very particular. He's selective, and he wants to know about the investors that we decide to work with, because life is too short. As I mentioned before, life is too short to work with bad partners, and we want to make sure that we fit with those partners. So tell me about you. When we get to Q&A, can you tell me about you? What is it? What can you bring? What kind of ecosystem do you have that could work with us? Just like we need to know what, you need to know what we can offer, because that's what makes a great relationship. And you see 100 decks this week as an investor, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And so again, Ivan, I really want to give him something to go by, so he feels really confident in working and going forward with you, because we're going to ask for $1 million in seed funding. That's a lot of money. And that means you and I, as investor and founder, are married for the next 8 years. So we want to make sure that that relationship is right. Is it going to work together? Because we want to go with those 2 to 5% gains, and we want to make sure that we and our investor, and hopefully that's you, work together. So call us, email us, let's talk about next steps working together.
Well, that
So
was, yeah, please go ahead, Warren.
yeah, so that's not right, not wrong. Okay. I did a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of, but mostly, you can pitch your call to action for your product or service or platform once, maybe twice. But talking about the relationship all the way through is totally okay. And I found that most investors are asking for that next meeting just because it's different. And again, this is very much my style. It's not your style, And as JJ said, when we had our office hours, he's like, you don't know spit about my company, but yet you just pitched it. And so what I've done here is taken those details that you guys need to know by heart. It's like running a marathon. Every day that marathon runner goes out there and he or she runs. Did they get better every day? No. But if they don't go out and run, they're getting worse. And if you've ever been, if you ever hear yourself saying, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready," or "I'm a little nervous because I haven't done this for a while," that's a problem. Because you need to. And there's a guy here in Hong Kong, Phil Ingram, that every day, whenever you talk to him, he's pitching his company, but he does it in a different way every day. So it's really exciting to talk to him. So anyway, let's go with, I'm sure my time is well up, but I'll go with Q&A when we get to there in a few minutes. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Warren. I mean, this is as good as it gets, and we're waiting for Naeem's presentation now. But we started with what all to put in a pitch, and then it came to the science of creating that pitch deck, or really the science of creating being an entrepreneur and creating the deck. And then of course this one was just how practical you can get in creating the pitch and pitching. And now we have Naeem here, and I'll let him take over. Naeem, if you can just introduce yourself, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so my name is Naeem Zafar, and I don't live in Hong Kong, don't live in Iceland, I live in Silicon Valley. Been here for 40 years. And I've been a 7-time entrepreneur, 5-time CEO, but I've been teaching also entrepreneurship at UC Berkeley for the last 19 years. So I'm electrical engineer by training. I spent 10 years as an engineer working with companies like these. And XCAT was my first startup. Then I spent time in marketing. We invented the fingerprint sensor on your Mac, on your iPhone. QuickTurn invented how to do hardware emulation technology, went public. Then I spent 10 years as a CEO of various companies. We invented stuff like IoT sensors, mobile security solution, which Oracle bought. And I've been teaching for the last 19 years at different universities. UC Berkeley, Northeastern, and Brown University. I taught there, and also Santa Clara. So that's me in a nutshell. I've written 6 books on entrepreneurship. So, and we can, anything about entrepreneurship, starting companies. What I do now is, in addition to teaching, I'm coaching other CEOs. So CEO coaching and teaching is my current focus. So let's talk about the topic at hand. The mistakes I see most entrepreneurs make: they mix the product presentation with investor presentation. That's a huge mistake. Customer presentation is very different. You're selling shares in your company, so your whole pitch is different. Why does it make sense to own something in company? At the end of the day, you have to become a storyteller. Everybody loves a story. It's about making their imagination come alive so they can see if your product or service existed, how the world will be different. If you can ignite that, then you're golden. Now, some people think they have to have an MVP to get them to believe you. Some people think you need to have customers to make them believe you. And I said, it doesn't matter. All those things help, but you're a storyteller. Imagine you're in Hollywood trying to pitch idea of a movie. You don't make the movie, you tell the story. The story has to be captivating. So what's the story? Story is very simple. We saw a problem because of our unique background where we worked, what we did, we had a unique insight. Then we went, did market research, we validated and confirmed who has this problem, how many people do have it. Then we assembled a team of advisors and co-founders. We know exactly who our customers are, who's our competition. All we need from you is this much money so we can go from this stage to this stage. That's the story. It's not complicated. Every startup has to tell this story. So people make it complicated. It is not complicated. It's common sense. So while you're going through all this presentation, we have a me, market size, solution, team, blah, 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 blah. Everything is translating into three simple facts in customer's mind, investor's mind. Is there money to be made? Are these the people who can make me the money? And how much money will I make? So remember, as you tell the story, it needs to translate into those three facts. If it doesn't, it's going to go over their head. It's not complicated. So what you have to know, are you investor ready? Very simple, 5 checkpoints. Do we have a strong vision and a conviction based on actual customer knowledge? Have you identified a real unmet need? How do you know? Is there some traction? The customers, people willing to try the product, people who are inspired by your vision, whatever, some traction. Number 3, we have the core teams in place, and we have clarity who needs us more and why. And we kind of know our basic metrics, unit economic, customer acquisition cost. If you can check onto all, at least 4 out of 5, you're ready to talk to investors. If not, go back to the drawing board. Then common mistakes people make while pitching, they over-explain the obvious. You have 3 minutes, 5 minutes to pitch. I don't need 6 slides. The cancer is a big problem. We know. What are you doing about it? Get to the point. So don't over-explain the obvious. Don't manage your time. And especially if you don't have the good grasp of your target market, while you're talking, the investor is actually Googling and seeing who else names comes up. If you haven't mentioned it, then you are considered not credible. Don't be vague, be clear, tell the facts as they are. And I want you to be ready to talk, having a 10-second version and a 30-second version of elevator pitch. But I want you to have a pitch deck. I want you to have a 1 slide, a 3 to 5 slide, and a 15 to 20 slide. If you're meeting them in a coffee shop, you may not have time to give a 20-slide presentation. You should be able to tell the story from your heart on a single hard printed 1 slide, which has some diagrams, some detail. So this is what you need to be investor ready. So what you're not to do, don't be secretive or vague. Don't be boring, because many people are very, very, very long speeches and just keep talking. Wait, see the reaction, talk to them. Now, some of you want to know what's an investor pitch. I'll tell you what's an investor pitch. This is it. You start by outlining what's the unmet need and how did you discover it. You talk about who has this problem. That's your market segmentation. Who needs you more? Then you talk about what do they do today? What's wrong with it? Where's the weakness? If you can define an underserved segment, which has current products are not meeting their need, you have identified a white space. Once you have a white space, you can now talk about a value proposition. What is your solution? What will delight these people? Now you get into the second half. How will you make money? What's your business model? Who needs you more? What's your beachhead? Which sliver of the market you want to go after first? Then what's your go-to-market plan? How will you create awareness? Which partnerships will you seek? Then you talk about what progress have you made in the last 6 months, what's coming up in the next 18 months. Then you talk about who's on board in the team, who's relevant, who's committed, and how big a company can you make, your financial projections. And finally, what do you need from the investor? So these are the 12 topics you need to cover. You can easily cover them in a 15 to 20-minute pitch or even a 10-minute pitch. But you have to be clear, articulate, crisp, and don't be annoyingly boring. So point is, if you can demonstrate you've discovered a white space, you can prove that you have done this through customer discovery, you have a team in place, you have a financial model, you have a pitch, you have a traction, you're ready to go. This is it. It's not complicated. This is your slide. And if you want to learn more about it, you can get one of my books for free just for inviting me today. It's my first name, said last name.com/free. But I look forward to talking to you when you pitch me, because I'm going to be tough on you guys. So get ready. Back to you, Preeti.
Thank you so much, Naeem. I mean, you all couldn't have asked for a variety of introduction to pitching. I mean, this is as good as it gets. And, after seeing how quickly slides and pitch deck can be made, a thought just came into my mind that, yes, you can create a pitch deck, but right now we're not there yet when your avatar is going to go pitch for you. So whatever you want to do, just do it with confidence. You're talking about your product, you're talking about your company. So, and you're talking about your passion, your vision, everything. So just deliver with confidence. Just make it natural. Practice until your delivery is a natural delivery. Don't make it, as if you kind of memorize the whole thing and you're just regurgitating it again and again. And maintain eye contact. That's so important. You modulate your voice. Otherwise, it just is like by the seventh slide, unless it's something very exciting, everybody's going to be like half asleep. So you control your pacing, you do all that. Just the modulation in your voice really makes it a lot better. And be ready for the tough questions. And again, as Ben said, if you don't know them, you don't know them, but at least you're confident. And your composure matters in that, because that shows that if you're confident, you are going to be confident in whatever you're presenting. And learn from each pitch. That's what matters. So it's really, as Naeem said, that it's pitching is all about a story. It's you persuade someone with your story, with your data, with your personality. It's persuasion right there. It's not about just the slides. It's about making people believe, whether it's investors, whether it's customers, whether it's anybody. It's making them believe in your vision, in your product, and basically it's your ability to execute. So if you are reading or presenting it that way, then it just doesn't come out. Because if you're passionate about something, you will be able to talk about it even in your sleep. So that's the thing. And now with that, we are going to open. I really want to thank all the presenters, and we have a couple of other mentors too. Thank you all for coming, but this is a very important topic, and we are glad that you're here. And with that, let's open the questions, and maybe Aditya, you could take over.
Yes. All right, let's start from the beginning. Brad has this question about in how to practice, is there any benefit to totally randomizing the order and end to end? I guess this is for Ben.
It's like randomizing the order of the slides, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, probably a bad idea, to be frank. I'm not sure why you would necessarily do that. I think the best argument for it is to try and train improvisation. The thing is that you're building a comprehension over a set of slides, right? There's kind of a base amount of content that somebody needs to know about your company for a go no go on do I talk to this person more or not? And usually it's do they know what they're talking about? And if I get lots of signals like this person is bullshitting, And it's like, all right, I'm out. I don't have time for this. So that can happen very quickly. But like, you start with a problem because you don't need any technical know-how or background to understand, like, okay, what is it that they're doing? Like, what is it that this company is doing? Okay, I get the arena they're in. I get the problem they're tackling, what angle they're tackling. It signals a lot of things. And so each of those topics throughout the 10, 12 topics in a deck, they're actually kind of a basis for signals more so than like providing an education on that specific topic. Who's on your team shows me how many people have you been able to convince to do this cheap or for free. What your solution is, what are you actually building? Have you actually built anything, or are you just bullshitting? Right? Have you actually left the lab and out of your brain and gone out and talked to customers? That is the traction slide. I don't care that you have 20 sales versus 50 sales. I care that you've gotten out of the lab, right? And those things build over a gradual progression throughout the deck. That's why these structures are so ingrained. And also when you have junior analysts that are looking through these things, or AIs that are looking through these things, like the structure helps them understand it. So no, I would to be frank, I would not mess with the structure too much. It's there for a reason.
Yeah, the second one, I guess it's for you as well. When pitching to potential customers, how should we position ourselves? The
Investor decks and sales decks have a lot of overlap, but they're fundamentally different types of conversations. I'm trying to figure out, like, is this company going to scale and make us a lot of money in a relatively short period of time? So is it exponentially scalable? Is an investor core of an investor pitch? A sales pitch for a customer is this going to cost me money and be a huge headache, or is it going to make my life easier and make us more money? And am I going to get in trouble for putting this in front of my boss? Those are kind of the bigger concerns in a sales presentation. And so in a sales deck, I would lean more into examples of how the product has worked for previous customers, what implementation looks like, what support looks like, what pricing looks like. Don't bury pricing. These are things that you may or may not want to cover in an investor deck. To Naeem's point, don't waffle on about minute details, but they're just two fundamentally different conversations. I'll leave it at that. But there's definitely more depth to the difference between sales and an investor.
Yeah. For other question, I guess there is already an answer, but do we change the pitching format based on audience? Naeem has answered like yes already. Anyone who wants to like just ask questions, like you have a couple of minutes.
Well, let's explain what Sunil has said. Yes, yes is a simple answer. But before you start pitching, find out what the people are interested in. What is their thesis? And what's their check size? So you can adjust your pitch accordingly. Silly thing to do is, as soon as the person shows up, you start pitching. No, develop a rapport, understand what are they looking for. So then once you understand it, even for 1 minute, you'll be able to address what will resonate with them. So it's kind of common sense.
Yeah. All right. There is a follow-up from Liz. Is it better to share a real founder story that connects to the problem in pitch deck, or use a fictional one?
Story is better. Real is better than not real, but even fake is okay as delivered genuinely and believable. So don't worry about that.
Awesome.
Improvise.
Isabella, you have raised the hand, so you want to speak up?
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering, I've noticed a lot of founders talking about their thesis or their hypothesis when they're like informally pitching. Is that a new trend of like including a thesis or taking that kind of a scientific approach when you're explaining the product?
Give us an example. Give us an example so we understand before we comment.
So like they'll talk about the problem. They'll be like, our thesis is that this is the direction that the world is heading in the next 5 to 10 years, and so we are betting on XYZ, and that's why we have done this particular thing, and this is the team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, is it not just like mission statement by another name? Like mission vision, it's just semantics, right? Like thesis, mission vision.
Is different.
No,
I think it's different in mission
the
vision.
way I understand it, it's more of a belief. Yeah, it's a belief in the way that the world is headed, which is different from a
Right. So
mission
I
of like
think,
what you expect, what you want to bring to life in the world.
Sure. Yeah.
see, my point is that investors want to know what's driving you because the journey is hard. Most people give up. If they understand what's driving you, and what you just said is anchors that. If you really believe the world is going there, and now you want to take advantage of that direction, that shows that you're rooted, you have grounding, you have conviction. So that's to me is a positive, as compared to I'm just hallucinating.
Isabella, just a quick perspective. Your journey as an entrepreneur is to convert opinions into your justified beliefs, to convert what you don't know into knowledge. An assumption is just the first step of assuming what the vision would be, the pivot would be, what idea would work, and presenting these assumptions as a guess or with supportive evidence that you've already justified this belief. I hope that helps. So it's about the storytelling and the authenticity of the storytelling and the evidence you provide to support the story that you're telling. Good luck.
Awesome. Kingsley?
Hey, Naeem, you mentioned in your last response or your previous response that knowing the check sizes could affect how you tailor your pitch. So I was curious like what range of check sizes and would you structure your pitch? So would you give a higher amount to like 30 minutes or lower amounts of time to like a smaller check? So I just want to get it some range between how we should structure our pitch versus the length of the size of our check.
My point is not it's not size of your check. Is each investor has a certain thesis how they invest. Some investor will say, well, our typical check size is $100,000. Some people tell me our typical check size is $4 million. Some people say our minimum check is 10 million. So when I hear that, when I ask that question, that allows me to frame what story I'm going to tell accordingly. And some people say, look, I'd love to talk to you, but not till next year. Because right now I'm just trying to raise about $500,000 to get to my first 10 customers. But let's keep meeting because next year I'll be raising $5 million. So it allows you to frame. Otherwise, you give the whole 20-minute pitch, and the guy's like, yeah, that's not what I do. So why not ask before you start pitching? Get orientation, get your bearing right.
Gotcha. So I guess just
Sorry,
follow.
Kingsley, let's yeah, we'll go to the breakout room. Okay. And
Okay.
then after the pitch is done, then practice is done, then if we get more chance. Okay.
Find us on
Let's,
LinkedIn, guys. If you have questions, please do.
yeah.
Okay, so we are going to go into the breakout rooms. It's a 1-minute pitch. And for the mentors, again, I think if you haven't done it before, but it's on a score of 1 to 5 with nothing like a 3. 1 is just not okay. The pitch is really bad. And then 2 is it's kind of okay, bearable. And 3 is 3, there's nothing like a 3. So 4 is you're excited about it, and 5 is, of course, you're ready to invest in them right away. So keeping that in mind, be as honest as possible. That's all we ask, so that'll make them better. And please, after you're done, go into fi.co/hot seat and please do rate them, because that's very important for the
Could you put the
founders.
link in the chat?
Yes.
I just pasted it already.
Yeah. Aditi just did that. So we can move to the breakout rooms.
Trina, you have not joined yet. Ayhan, you have to join. Which room are you in? Yeah, what is V assistant? Ayhan, which room are you assigned to, or you don't have a room assigned already? Oh, you're muted, I guess. I'm not able to
I'm
hear.
sorry. I do this mute problem all the time. I apologize.
No
So I
worries.
was with Preeti and Warren, that room.
Okay,
And
okay.
left.
Let me
I,
move you.
I make this stupid. I'm not used to Zoom yet. Okay. Yeah.
You can just go to the breakout room and join. It says not joined yet. Do you see how? No?
What? No, I'm still in the main room with you, and the breakout room I was in with Warren and
So
Preeti.
do you have an option to join right now or no?
I don't see anything on the screen.
Okay, 1 second. Let me do that for you.
I just see it now with you.
Yeah, 1 second.
Hi, David. I don't think we can get into another. I'm not sure how to get into another room.
Go to the dot on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll
Oh,
have join breakout room.
yeah,
All right.
send me to the same one back, but okay, let's
Good
try.
luck.
Thanks.